Uh, 40 minutes, but I don't really want to take
Awesome.
that long. I was already winding up, but I would like to invite you guys to share any thoughts you have on this passage. But I also, if there's anything that you did not mention about the work that you're doing, because that you would like to share, if you have a praise to share or a plan, a challenge, something you want us to pray for, I would just like to open that up to you guys to share what you think about this passage, maybe how it can apply to what you're doing, and or any other news about the work God has given you in bringing shalom to our city.
I'm happy to share that I've always told my parents, my dad, who's a pastor, and my mom, who was a missionary, that I love that I found gardening so interesting when we would garden as children. Out of the nine of us, I'd be the only one outside with my dad, and I could be out there all day and all night. They'd have to pull me in and pull me away from the soil, but I loved it so much that I can put a seed in the ground and I don't know what's going on under the ground. But I know in a few months I got a carrot and I got a watermelon. And I was so excited the first summer that I did that. I thought when I buried it, I had nightmares because I thought I killed it, as in burial, as in death. So I did not have the understanding when I was young, but over time I got the understanding, and then later on I got the education to follow that. And I'm like, I can't be the only one who has that intrigue about what I did when I put that seed in the ground. So that's when I was like, I would like to start teaching this and then follow like my teacher did and taught us in high school and then in college. So now it's just such a full circle blessing to me that I learned it at home and then learned it in school, and now I'm teaching it again on a faith-based non-for-profit organization there in Joliet, which is my hometown. So I love it. And
That's
then I love
awesome.
I made the connection years later to my parents that it's like one of the oldest occupations in the Bible was a farmer. And so they were like, how would you even make that correlation? I'm just like, you guys make us read the Bible all the time. So this, I'm sure,
So
is one of the scriptures that I brought up in my arguments to them, that I am doing one of the oldest occupations in the Bible. And I feel like I'm really like closer to Jesus and connected with him since was like back in that time. And I still do it now to this day. And now I teach other children to do it. So I absolutely love that you highlighted this scripture in particular. I'm sure it's one that I brought to my
that's
parents
awesome.
found something related to the Bible or growing or cutting down a tree that's not bearing fruit, I would run and bring that to my parents, like, look, there's something else in the Bible about gardening. They'd be like, okay. So I absolutely loved it. And thank you so much, Debbie, for this time and sharing this scripture. It's definitely encouraging and I appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Very welcome. I'm looking up to see what Shelley Cram wrote about this passage, if anything.
As gardeners, and whether we're growing food or even being out there doing the lovelies of the perennials and the cottage gardens and everything, there's a, it is exhausting, and it's the weirdest thing to be so exhausted but have such joy doing it. And I hope everybody experiences that. I just saw something on Facebook recently about a gentleman had written out, your lifeline, birth, midlife, and then death. And there's no years in there, but we fill in all of that. And more than 60% of that is mapped out as a career where you bust your butt to make the living, to set aside the money. So at the last like fourth of your life, you get to do what you love. And he said, so if you can figure out a way to do what you love and make a career of doing it, then do it. And I've known that for, 4 years that I've been doing these gardens. I set up the nonprofit because we were on NBC 5 News somehow found us when we set up that garden here in Batavia in 2020. And they wanted to interview me for what we were doing. And I gave my platform to 2 other women that were a part of my garden because I don't do it for the recognition. I do it to feed our community and because God told me to do it. And so I feel like you, what was your first name? Are you Esther, or is that what you go by, or what's your first name? The lady that just spoke.
Yes, my parents named me and my siblings all out of the Bible. So my name is Queen Esther Louise, but I answer to Esther.
Oh, I love it.
I was a tomboy, so my dad would call me Q so that I wouldn't be embarrassed with the neighborhood boys when he called me Queen. So he would call me Q. So
I absolutely love it. So, what should we call you?
you can call me either. I answer to the children call me Miss Q. I'm like they're like Mrs.
Oh,
Outfire. So it's like I'm Miss Q to them, which I love. So
oh, well, awesome. And I do love that you say you've been loving this your whole life. And obviously, God had a plan for you. Oh, it's
amen.
beautiful. You gave me the biggest smile for this morning before I head out into the cold and play with chickens. But
I love it. I love it.
my just I'm that's the part where I struggle. So if there is a prayer request in this group, and I'm just now meeting you guys, and I read all the emails that come through. As Debbie knows, I am so crazily busy doing what we do, and it just seems like God just keeps throwing gardens at me. Build this, my child. Build this one, my child. Build this, my child. And I'm like, oh, can you give me some rest? So it's to the point where I need to figure out a way to not have to supplement my income. I work, a third shift at the casino in Aurora because I have to make money so I can pay my overhead.
Yeah.
And so I'm blessed to be able to work 3 days a week at the casino in Aurora and pick up an extra shift here or there to cover my overhead because I did for the last 5 years get out of my debt. But the problem is I want to make money doing what I love and I just haven't figured it out yet. And there's grants out there. There's ways that you can sit down and create a donation letter and send it to the local businesses and have fundraisers, but nobody has time for computers and nobody has time to sit down and do that. So I guess my prayer is to request that God sends me some answers on that. I really would not like to work at the casino third shift. I would really like to somehow be making money through my nonprofit that I could pay myself just the amount that it costs to live. I am not a label person. I do not have fancy things. I had a truck donated to me because I needed one. And then right after the truck was donated to me, my car died. So it's like he has given me every blessing since then, but I have not either heard him telling me how to make money doing this nonprofit or he doesn't want me to make money doing the nonprofit. But I do know he wants his daughter to be rewarded. Now, I don't know if that's the free ticket to heaven or if that's he's going to share with me one day I play the lotto and I win it and I don't have to work in the casino anymore. So I'm trying to put together the reason why I still have to have a job. And I would really like to figure out if there's people out there that can help sit in front of a computer, pull up all the nonprofit grants that I can apply for, have them apply for them for me, let me proof it, and then we can send it. Like, I don't, people are like, call the colleges, call the universities. And I'm like, when do I have time for that? I barely had time for this phone call. I woke up an hour late. So it is a struggle for me. So I guess that's my prayer request is to, how am I supposed to make money doing this nonprofit? I'd
Yeah.
really like to know the answer to that. And I just haven't figured it out yet.
That's a good, it's a prayer request. It's also a good topic for us all to pursue in the future, as a network I know that I email out anytime I hear about a grant or something that could apply to any of you. I send it out.
Yep.
And there are, there's webinars out there I've seen on grant writing and things, but like you say, that all takes time. So,
It
please,
definitely does. And
yeah,
there's a learning curve.
yeah, yeah. So all of
If
you just
you
keep sharing
have a
resources
minute,
as
I'll
you
tell
can.
you a story.
Rodney has something to share, just
Okay.
for a minute.
We bought this land outside of Naperville in 1995, 55 and a half acres. And my late wife and I were both gardeners, and we were just like kids in a candy shop out here. But I wanted to figure out how could I make it pay just picking up on Michelle's theme, right? And I tried talking to Naperville about receiving their leaves, cash rented a lot of the land. One of the farmers didn't like paying the rent that he was supposed to, had to go through court with him. But nothing seemed to, and if you get into, I did the farmer's market for a number of years, and there was nothing about agriculture that I could find that would make it pay without, I mean, you know, if you look at people who are growing vegetables with CSAs, we're organic out here. And it's just a lot of labor, a lot of investment, and I didn't see a way to make it pay. And then over the course of 10 years, development came out into the area. And we sold off 37 and a half acres of the land that we owned. And I retired from my consulting practice and enjoy living out here on the basis of that sale of the land. So it's really, and I believe God's hand was in all that, getting the land and selling it and still living here, and Pam coming in to join me with what we're doing. So it was, anyway, that's a testimony that looking for a way to make the land pay, and nothing seemed to fall in place, but then development came out, sold off some of it, and can still afford to live here nicely with the proceeds from what we sold and work with what we have. So that's just the story for you.
That's a beautiful testimony. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. It almost seems like you got rewarded for being persistent and diligent and still working so hard at that.
I think so.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think so. Because when you're talking about tired, I mean, we would come out here and work on it. We planted to fill out and again, it's organic. We filled out the hedgerows with over 5,000 trees with working with the DNR. And we did a lot of different things and work all out there all day, 12, 14 hours. I'd come in and write notes on what we did that day in the computer. The first year's journal was that thick. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Second year was that thick. Third year, fourth, fifth. So each year there was less going into the journal, but it was just all exciting. But there were times when I was down on my knees and pushing a walk behind tractor saying, why? Why am I doing this? And a lot of it doesn't make sense, but there's certainly been blessings over the years through all that. And I think you'll be rewarded with, if you're following, somebody commented to us, we meet with a group, and if God puts you in place to do that, he'll make a way for you to do it.
He will.
Yeah.
Okay? So if we're following God's desires for our life, it'll work out.
You know, the thing is, I have I have ADHD, adult ADHD. It's very challenging at times. I've had to change some of the things I do in my life to stay focused. My people know, in my core group of people, they know not to text me between 8 in the morning and 9 at night because I will not look at my phone. It completely distracts me and it blows up constantly because I'm in my two Bible study groups, texting back and forth, and prayer request, chat thread. And, so all these things are going on my phone, and it's almost like when I go to ask Google a question, there's sometimes I don't know how to ask the question to Google for it to give me the answer. Like my brain doesn't process how to ask that question. And it's like prayer. It's like I know what I want, but I don't know how to pray to God to give me the answer. I feel sometimes like when I'm praying, I'm asking the wrong question and are praying the wrong prayer. And maybe that's why I'm not hearing the answer. So that's why I have in my prayer group also asking, please help me with my boundaries this year to stay clear with my boundaries. And then also help me find a way that he can provide me with a way to make money doing this. Because people tell me all the time, oh, you should just sell it. What? That's like a whole other business.
Absolutely.
inside of growing it. I don't have refrigeration. I don't have the capability and the packaging. And like I said, in all of the square footage I've ever put together, probably since 2019. And this is just because I've gotten local grants, a pretty steady flow of income through local grants for 3 years that gave me over 15,000 in the last 5 years. That's how much money I've spent. Everything else has been acquired, here and there, pennies here and there through Marketplace or for free. If I drive down the side of the road and I see a barrel laying on the side of the road, I pick it up because I'm going to turn it into a rain barrel. Like, I am the most resourceful and the most reusable person you can find. So I know how much money I've spent in my gardens over 5 years. I do. And I don't need a lot. When I first started, it was, oh my gosh, I have to pick up an extra shift. I have to buy 5 bags of soil to start the seedlings in the basement. Like, it was like that. But then when I started doing it and I was faithful and things would just happen. I went through Home Depot and had my cart with some stuff and decided to start putting it back. And Home Depot guy came over and asked if I needed help. And I was like, yeah, but it's okay. I know you don't have layaway. I'll be back. And he asked what I was doing. I told him, and he took me to his manager, and his manager paid for my entire cart. And I fell to my knees in tears in Home Depot.
Do you know the Marie Wilkinson food pantry?
That's my number one person that I give my food to.
And they have the garden across the street from it.
Across the street, Rob Hughes runs that garden, and he's the person that told me no, that I could not rent a plot there because they were full. And because of his telling me no, and because he said, will you please help us find more land? That's when I turned to my church, and this is when this exploded for us.
Now, Peter
Rob is a huge part of my story.
Okay, the garden, the guys who started that are from Home Depot, and is that Rob Hughes? I'm not sure. I don't remember the name.
Yep, that's him, a tall, skinny guy.
Okay. Well,
and that's when I knew there was a need. Like, I didn't even know. My neighbor in Aurora, I had rented when I got out of that bad relationship. I had to find a place to live. I had 3 places on a paper in front of me. 2 of them were cheaper and more posh. And the third was a location in Aurora that was a little run down, a little beat up. And I moved in October, and I didn't know the neighborhood. And to come to find out in the spring, I was the minority in the neighborhood, which I don't care. My church was very diverse in ethnicity. I don't care that I was the only white person in the neighborhood. I am not scared. I am very secure in where I'm at, and it's all in God's timing. And my neighbor, a Mexican family, he told me, you're doing this, little 20 by 20 garden here. You can go down the street and rent a spot. And I was like, what? But when I got into this house, it was not the house I really wanted, but God shoved me that way. And Jeremiah 29:11 scripture showed up on my phone the day that I signed the lease for this place, where God, has good plans for you. And then the next day was the scripture of he will give you the desires of your heart. So I moved into this house reluctantly and found out the reason why was because my neighbor told me about the gardens down the street at Rob's Gardens. I went there to get more space because God told me to grow food and feed people, and I wasn't feeding enough people with my garden at the house. That I went down the street. Rob said, sorry, you can't be here because we don't have space. And if you help us grow more food on more land, you can help us fill this building, and pointed across the street. And I go, what's that? And he said, that's the food pantry. And again, another slap was like, there it is, Michelle. This is why God put you here. This is all the reason that you're renting a place here in this neighborhood. Have the neighbor that you have that told you to go down the street and grow food in those gardens and grow more food because there's a pantry right there. It was so eye-opening, this whole story. I mean, it should surely be a movie. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's been the most amazing thing. And so we have given Marie Wilkinson a lot of food. And I absolutely love it, and I love being a part of that community. And then I also give to Batavia Interfaith and to Salvation Army in Geneva.
Yeah,
but Marie Wilkinson,
How's the expansion going there at Marie Wilkinson?
How what?
The expansion they were building last year?
Yes, it's finally done. The building's finished. Now they're just doing Diane Renner. She actually stepped down from being the director. There's a new woman. Her name is Annette. She's the new director there. And I have not yet met her. I can't wait to meet her. And then they're right now in the process of trying to find like pallet shelving, so that they have the shelves to put the food on. So
Okay.
the building is beautiful.
Do you
Like
know
they really
Rebecca?
needed it. Yes,
Do you
she's
know
going to help
Rebecca
me.
Axel?
Yep, she's a part of my event in March, on March 29th.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I just was
She
messaging her yesterday.
All right. We
okay.
got to connect
Good.
you guys up so that,
So
oh, we have a
Michelle,
directory, by the
yeah,
way. You have each other's email addresses and
Yes,
stuff.
we
this is
certainly
good.
do.
This is good because I was just texting, Facebook messaging
Rebecca.
Rebecca, and she said, "Yeah, I know. I have a friend Michelle from Glory Gardens that
Yep.
I think she's interested in. She might be interested in finding out more about your. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And just now I just twigged. I'm like, okay, I guess that's funny.
The interweaved connections. Rebecca's a doll. I was just over there not too long ago, and it's great because her and I bounce resources off each other. She's a great person.
Yeah.
Good, good, good.
Well, that's great. This is what this network is all about. Is
Well,
anyone
just a
else here?
story for you. Rebecca and Sarah Comfort came out here or called me, Sarah Comfort, actually. I don't know whether you know her or
Yes,
not,
I do
Michelle,
know
but
Sarah. She's the one that put together the worm farm at Murray Wilkinson.
Yeah.
so Sarah called a few years ago and said that they had read an article about what we were doing here. And she made a magical statement. She said, we'd like to learn how to garden and we're willing to work. And that started, that's the year we had maximum production out here. The problem with volunteers, is they're great when they do, but then when they don't, you're left, like I tell people, I say, Pam and I live here.
Yeah.
So when you get worried or you get started some direction and all of a sudden you look around, there's nobody there. And
Yeah.
so we did some harvest. Pam and I, 3,000 pounds in a week and send out on the food truck by ourselves. So we, anyway, lots of stories about it. They got us into it. They did a great contribution. Rebecca gave us the name of somebody who's been a great volunteer since, but we haven't seen Rebecca or Sarah for a while. We miss them.
Okay, Linda, looks like you're going to be leaving. Thank you for joining us.
But really, thank you so much and blessings. And, you're just going to be each of you will be in my prayers for all that you have shared and all that you do. So thank you.
Oh, Linda,
God
thank
bless
you
your
so much.
ministry, Linda.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Okay.
All right, we're winding down. Anyone else have something that you would like to share?
It seems like I hear a common scripture, the harvest is ripe, but the laborers are few. I get that too.
Yeah.
On the community garden. And I feel like almost triple and quadruple the amount of collard greens that we grow in the area that we serve because they're so popular there. And at times, you go through all the process of starting in the seeds in the classroom and then bringing them to the greenhouse and then putting in the garden. And then you wait for them to grow and get to the big space that you want them so you can pull them and start harvesting and share with the congregation. And last year, a lot of them came up missing. So they do have free pool in our area in the community garden. So once people know that your collard greens are popping back there, it's like they watch the street, they just pull in, they come and get them, and then they're gone. So the students and I will get there on Tuesday and like, okay, today we're going to harvest collard greens. And then it's like, let's harvest something else because they're gone. So
Oh my goodness.
is right, but the laborers are always few. And then I can never get the quantitative data that I need to support some of the grants that fund the organization's garden so that we can, how much did you grow and how much did you give away? And I have to tell them every year we have a lost number somewhere because we have free pool days. If you need it, come and get it. By all means, we do that, but there needs to be some kind of system in place where we can keep track of the numbers so we actually know how many people we're helping.
Yeah.
As with the finances, I always work and I always keep myself working in so many different areas because the garden has never in my mind been something that could produce like a financial stability for me, or so I've never seen that or thought that I could bring that. So I've always kept a job on the side or several. So I do several things. And I don't know, that would be something interesting if I could eventually like make that like my thing that I do to make my lifestyle. I think that would be outstanding and great, but I equally feel convicted because I love to garden so much and I love so much to teach the children to garden that I'm like, I love it too much to charge for this. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm in that middle ground between wanting to do this for a livelihood and also I cannot dare charge for this because I just love it entirely too much. So I think the financial like avenue would be something great to explore in conversation to see how that could happen. So Michelle, I definitely feel what you're saying there, but I
Yeah.
would
This,
probably draft
this,
an invoice and not send it. But I do invest a lot of money and time with commuting back and forth to Joliet and buying things that the children need and getting things that they need. Sometimes I'll submit my receipts to the organization and they have grants where they can fund it back, but then I feel bad. So that's
Yeah,
hard.
it's hard. I remember when I set up at Ginger Creek, and when Rob told me I could not be a part of that garden because there was no space, I was like, well, I'm renting a house down the street. If I knock down that big maple tree, I could probably put more space down. It was like I couldn't cut down the tree. But I went, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have a garden or I have a church and it's got 15 acres. So before I even asked my pastor, I had asked him, requested a meeting with him after a service one Sunday. I said, I'd really like to talk to you about an idea I have. And he said, sure. So I went, and 3 days later, I went back to talk to him and I sat down and gave him a coffee. And he goes, you know what, Michelle? He goes, I've been praying about this and making sure that I say the right words to you. And all I know is the answer is yes. He didn't even know what I was going to ask him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you made this so easy because I hate asking people for help. It's a thorn in my side. I hate it. If I'm moving, I would rather move everything out of my house by myself because I know it's such a pain in the butt for everybody to help somebody move. So that's just my personality. And so I did ask him for the land, and he's like, yeah, the answer is yes before you even ask. And I was grateful for that. But also the laborers. I don't know if you have the opportunity or the resources to figure out how to get community service workers on your property. Now, that's something I wouldn't be where I am today with this nonprofit if I did not have the help of the community service workers. So I'm in Kane County. So you call the Kane County department and they will set you up with a director of the community service workers. So when people get a DUI or they got into a bar fight or I don't know, domestic violence, something, or they drove on a suspended license and have to do hours, you get to pick the crime. You don't have to have awful crimes, but you get to pick the crime that you want. And then they connect you with those people because they have to give hours to the court in order to pay for their wrongdoings. And every single community service worker that I have incorporated in my nonprofit through these gardens has changed their life in some way. And I'm still friends with these people after they give me 200 hours and 300 hours. And so it's just a blessing to be able to have their labor and spend time with them in those gardens and speak scripture to them and share with them why we're doing it for our community. And I just had one that's finished with his hours, been done for 2 years now. He just saw my car at the coffee shop and stopped in with him and his wife, and they just sat and had coffee with me. But it's just a blessing because I message all of these people. There's like 12 on my roster now. I share with them on Sunday, hey, I'm going to be in the garden all 5 days this week. Please tell me when you can show up because I basically live there. So there's no hours, so they'll say, hey, I can come on Tuesday between 12 and 5 if that would help you. Well, of course it's going to help me. So on Sunday, then I write down everybody's time availability, and then I kind of put the projects in front of them that I know they will be successful. Or if I have 2 guys coming on one day, they can do the moving of the wood chips. If I only have a lady one day, she'll move the wood chips. Or no, the guys will dump the wood chips, but she'll come back and spread them. So I'm so intricate on the direction that they do and the tasks that they do, because I can't do it all by myself.
Michelle,
Yes, sir.
we've
Let
got to
me
go.
stop
We've
here
got to
a
go.
bit.
Yeah.
We're about to run out of time
Michelle,
again.
okay, just an invitation for you. Why don't you come on down and see what we do with Pam and
I would love it.
And
Well, we'll
Okay.
connect. Yeah.
we'll
We'll
connect.
connect after the meeting. We're running
Okay.
out of time here.
Yeah, we've got to go.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to add briefly two things. One, as far as volunteers, another source is Boy Scouts. One of our members, Mike Polly, has runs a community garden connected to a church way up north. I forget. But they've had, as an Eagle project or something, scouts came in and built. They have these elevated raised beds that are with trellises that are set up for square foot gardening. My guys have all been in. I'm the mother of two Eagle Scouts, so I know how that works. These are people who are looking. Boy Scouts now includes girls as well, so these are people who are looking for projects that require getting a group to get because they have to show their leadership skills, get a group coordinated. They have to coordinate getting the supplies collected, bought, donated, whatever. So they're very good for hard structure kind of things. And he also uses kids from the church's school to help with, again, it's kind of like the classes. They come in and help with the harvesting and the planting a bit. But also on the idea of making money from what you're doing, we do have members in our network who are not non-for-profits. There's the Garden Center, of course, Wold House, Sunrise Farms Nursery, but very near them is Locavore Farms. And I wish that Rachel Jones, she's the wife there, and she writes. I think she's the one that writes their newsletters, because she recently talked about they've done a lot. They've been working for 10 years and building all these ways that they're getting an income stream from being able to live on the land. They've got this elaborate dine on the land setup, and they've got
awesome.
A CSA, and they do children's camps, where kids come in and work in the gardens and learn about nature and living there. I mean, they just keep doing things. And but one of her recent newsletter had a great quote from Mother Teresa that she's quoted before, because they were thinking about what else can we do, what should I do, and sometimes God's answer is stop, that's enough for now, because the quotation was that God hasn't called me to be successful, he has called me to be obedient. And it was like, yeah, it's a lot of work out there, so I just want to let it's, God calls each of us in different ways,
So
we're all doing a lot of different things. But
before we sign off, can I just ask that you remind us all of some of the resources you've mentioned today, and especially that last one about Rachel Jones. I didn't catch the name of the farm, so if you can do that, because we got to go.
All right, and
thank you so much for organizing this.
Yes, thank you, Debbie.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Hope to meet Michelle soon, and Esther, it's good to see you again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Debbie.
Always good to see you guys.
Oh, good to see you. We learned so much more than with emails. I love this.
Yeah.
We just call this a live email.
Yeah. Oh, it's way better. Way better.
My apologies again for being late, but Michelle had to sleep.
All right. That's right.
Well, it was so nice to meet you, Queen. I love that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And we should definitely connect if there's anything. I always tell people, please let me be the person that you contacted before you purchase anything.
Okay.
Because people will buy something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had 25 of those. You could have had it.
Oh
because I do get a lot of donations, and people do, repurpose things through me. And all of my community gardens, it's funny, I'll make them all the same size plot, and I charge $100. And some people are like, gosh, I only pay 40 in Naperville. Well, you get water in Naperville and your plot is smaller, but in mine, your water's paid for and you have every supply you need. And if I don't have it and you want it in your garden, I will go buy it for you.
Wow.
So it's a beautiful thing the way that we have that set up,
That's
because God has been so good to me. And it's the only community gardens where you get all your trellising and all your tomato cages and all the things that you need.
so awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so nice to meet you on the call today.
You as well. Thank you again, Debbie. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Glad you're
Yes,
feeling
Debbie,
better too.
thank you. Thank you for your patience.
No problem.
Bye.
You
Bye-bye.
have a good rest of your
Tell
weekend,
Stan I
guys.
said hello. Hi to Stan.
Oh yes, I'll tell them.
Okay, okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.